Hi everyone, and welcome to the next video. In this video, we're going to be doing the chapter 2 story from Ecce Romani. And again, I'll walk you through the translation and show you how you should do it, or at least one way you can do it. And I'll try to highlight specific grammar topics as we go that have to do with the chapter's grammar so you can understand it a little better. So again, as always, I would recommend that you start by making sure you have the vocab memorized and then read the story out loud. Read it aloud, listen to it, and try to see if you can make sense of it without necessarily translating every single word. Try to get the gist of it and then go back and translate. So the story starts like this. You have Cornelia est puella Romana. This line we've seen before. It means Cornelia is a Roman girl. It's the exact same line as chapter 1. Then we have Flavia quoque est puella Romana. So here we have Flavia also is a Roman girl. Cornelia et Flavia sunt puellae Romanae, quae in Italia habitant. So Cornelia and Flavia are Roman girls who live in Italy. And again, these characters we've seen in chapter 1, it's the same two girls. Cornelia et Flavia sunt amicae. So Cornelia and Flavia are friends. Hodie puellae non sedent, sed in agris ambulant. So again, hodie means today. Today the girls are not sitting or don't sit, but walk in the fields, or you could say they are walking in the fields. And again, the word order, you want to switch to English word order. So put your subject first and then look for your verb. It's usually at the end of the sentence. Brevi tempore Cornelia defessa est. So soon, or in a short amount of time, brevi tempore. Cornelia defessa est means she's tired, right? So Cornelia is tired. Non iam ambulat, sed sabarbare sedet. So non iam, she's no longer, ambulat, walking. So you could say she no longer walks or she is no longer walking. It would mean the same thing. But she's sitting, or she sits, under a tree. Flavia, quae est puella strenua, in agris currit. So Flavia, who is an energetic girl, right? It's sort of a side thought. We call these relative clauses, but don't worry about it. Just take it the way it comes right at you. So Flavia, who is an energetic girl, in agris currit, is running in the fields, right? So Cornelia gets tired. She's sitting down. Her friend Flavia is running around still. Brevi tempore, Flavia quoque est defessa. So in a short time or soon, Flavia also is tired. Iam Flavia et Cornelia sabarbare sedent quod defessae sunt. So now Flavia and Cornelia are sitting under the tree because they are tired. Dum puellae sabarbare sedent, Cornelia legit et Flavia scribit. So while the girls sedent are sitting sabarbare under the tree, Cornelia is reading legit and Flavia is writing scribit. Tandem puellae ex agris ad villam rusticam lente ambulant. So finally, or at last, tandem, the girls, they walk slowly. So lente ambulant, they slowly walk, ex agris, out of the fields, ad villam rusticam, towards the country house and farm, or towards the country house, you could say. So again, a pretty straightforward story. There's nothing too crazy here in terms of the vocabulary. A lot of it is overlapping from what you've already seen, but there is some specific grammar you want to understand to be able to translate this. So if you look at the first few lines, they're using the same grammar that we saw in chapter 1. The nouns are ending in A, and the verb is ending in T, which makes sense because, again, we saw A as a singular noun ending, an adjective ending, and T is a singular verb ending. So Cornelia is, Cornelia est. Makes sense. But when you get to that third line, you have Cornelia et Flavia sunt puellae Romanae. Something different is happening here. Instead of ending in an A, we have puellae Romanae. It's got that diphthong, that AE. Right? And the verb is sunt. It's not est anymore with a T, it's sunt with an NT. Something's going on here. What you're looking at are plural nouns and plural verbs. So puellae Romanae is the plural form of puella Romana. When there's more than one, you make it AE. Sunt is the plural form of est, because again, it wouldn't make sense to say puellae est. That would say the girls is. Doesn't really match up. They both have to be plural. So we flip est to sunt. So as you go through this, you want to look and pay attention and say, where are all my singular and my plural sentences? In this case, I've highlighted the singulars in orange, right? So Cornelia est puella Romana, singular. But the plurals are in yellow. Sunt puellae Romanae, they are Roman girls. Later on, you have Cornelia et Flavia sunt amicae. Even though Cornelia and Flavia are singular, together they're forming a plural subject. That's why you have to say they are, sunt, friends, amicae. So as you go through the story, just pay attention to the endings. That's a key thing in Latin. You have to make sure that you've got the right ending and you understand what it means. So the A is singular, the AE would be plural. For verbs, T is singular, NT would be plural. So now let's take a look at the English translation and put this all together. So if you were to look at a translation of chapter 2, it would look like this. This is basically what we just did together, right, with slight changes, but this is a pretty good translation of the story. So what I'd encourage you to do, again, is go back, read the story out loud, try to translate it on your own, and if your translation is matching what I've put here, you're in a good place. It doesn't have to be perfect or exactly the same as mine, because there's a few different ways you can translate things, but as long as you're close and you're keeping the same meaning, you can feel pretty comfortable that you're on the right track and that this is making sense to you, which is what we're after. In these early chapters, it's just about getting some vocab down and some basic grammar. The grammar you want to get at and make sure that you have under control is the idea of singular versus plural. So what does a singular noun or adjective look like? It's going to end in A most of the time, so far anyway. What does a singular verb look like? Well, they've been ending in T, right? The girl walks, puella ambulat. In this chapter, we pluralized it. So girl became girls, right? Puellai. So the A became an AE, and we saw that plural verbs are ending in NT. So in other words, the plural form of a T ending verb, like est, would be one with an NT, like sunt, or ambulat becoming ambulant. That's the key grammar that you want to have under your belt so you can feel comfortable moving forward. Another thing I'd encourage you to do is take a look at what's going on in Italy today and what this setting would have looked like. So this is a picture of Tuscany. And while it's not exactly where our story takes place, you can get the idea of what, the Italian countryside looks like, or maybe what a Villa Rustica would look like. And you can start to envision when the girls are sitting under a tree or when they're running in the fields, what would it look like? And you want to do that just so you can bring the story to life. You don't want to read these stories in the abstract. Language is meant to be visualized, and you want to be able to think in Latin when you get really good at it. And you have to have sort of a frame of reference for it. So when you're thinking of the phrase like in agris, try to imagine something like this, where the girls are. Or when it says they're sitting sub arbore, try to think of one of these trees and try to envision what it would be like for two Roman girls to be sitting under this tree and reading and writing, right? It'll help bring the story to life. And I think it'll also help you with the vocab, right? It'll help you visualize what these words mean and help you just understand the story better. The last thing I wanted to bring up is this story deals with literacy, right? The girls are reading and writing. You saw the phrases legit, the verbs legit and scribit. So you want to imagine, a lot of people think that in ancient times, a lot of people weren't literate. Not entirely true. Many people could read and write. A lot of people could read and maybe not necessarily write. So there is a lot of education happening in ancient Rome. And I think it's important when you read this story about the two Roman girls that it mentions they can read and write because they definitely could. Back in the day, women were educated. It's a sign of social class, really. So if you were an upper class woman, absolutely. And you can see it in things like this with, this fresco from Pompeii. This is a young couple who had this fresco commissioned, I would imagine, and they decided to have themselves portrayed as literate, right? The guy is holding a scroll, implying that he either wrote it or he can at least read it, while his wife is holding a stylus in her hand. She's touching it to her chin, and she has that wax tablet that you could write on in her hand. So it's implying that she knows how to read and write as well. And I think that's really important to understand because there is sometimes this misconception that not everyone could, or maybe women or young girls couldn't. And while there is some truth to that, you want to dive into this. I'd encourage you to look this up on your own, and you'll see that a lot of people could read and write in ancient Rome, including women, which is something that a lot of people don't really understand or have a misconception about. So in our story, it's because it's a sign of social class. And Cornelia's father, we're going to see, is a Roman senator. So he would have an educated daughter. And if Flavia, the friend, is reading and writing too, it implies that while her father might not be a senator, they're of a high enough social class that they would be educated too, right? That she would be educated. So it's something to think about. I'd highly encourage you to go looking this up on your own, do some outside research, and look up Roman education. It's really interesting. It's a cultural topic in Ecce Romani, but they're hinting at it here. So it's something to think about. It's definitely worth it. So hopefully this video was helpful and you found it useful for translating. Good luck. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments below. I'll help you however I can. And just keep reading, right? Keep at it. If you're struggling a little bit, don't worry, keep at it. And I promise you will get better with this with practice. The more you read and the more you practice it, the better off you'll be. So good luck, and I'll see you on the next one.